Yeah, if you could just speak to the safety and your collaboration and what it's like to work together now for the first time.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. The way you say the space, because I do feel like in this movie, which was predominantly sound stages or at the very least entirely controllable locations, this movie really was about building a physical space for everyone to just sort of feel comfortable and a completely protected environment where you could do anything. And I kind of feel like the way you're wording it is like exactly what the challenge was, which was like, we just have to build a bubble and build these four walls and build a ceiling, and then just us and the crew will just live in that, and that'll be the shoot, and that will be the experience, and that'll be our month. And there can be no judgment, because it's not just our third movie, but you're in front of the same cinematographer for the third time, and the same wardrobe, and the same makeup department, and the same gaffer controlling the lights. There's just, there's familiarity everywhere, and therefore the space is just about freedom.
How about you, Elisabeth? What's it like back for the third time? Maybe even, I guess, more intense than Universe, I would think.
Yeah, we were texting about this actually a few days ago, and we were sharing how we talk about our collaboration in the different ways. And I kind of have boiled it down to this sort of weird game that we play where he can write something that is so challenging for me to do that I feel like maybe I can't do it. He's one of the only writers that can do that. And he just believes in me so blindly that I can do it. And so there's this kind of pushing thing that we do where we just push each other to kind of go farther than we've ever gone. And he's a brilliant writer, which is probably the first and foremost reason why I keep collaborating. But then as a director, there's just this sort of almost blind belief that is really empowering. And I keep kind of like trying to get him to just write something that is harder and harder and harder and harder, and he keeps doing it. And this was definitely the hardest thing that I think I've ever had to do.
So this truly is a great part, it's clear. Can you talk about inhabiting, I guess especially those first three acts, when with each act it is a little different and you're changing, but you're just spiraling harder and harder, and maybe how those specific 5 acts kind of helped you frame these very specific states of mind she was in instead of a slower, more gradual progression.
Yeah, we started with Act 1, and then we went to Act 5, and then did 3, 2, and 4. And so the hardest thing at first was just establishing where her 11 was, in Act 1. And I remember the first, we only spent a couple days on each act, so I remember the first few hours of doing Act 1, Alex's main note was faster, 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 faster. And so he kept pushing me to go faster and faster, and so then by the end of Act 1, we kind of figured out, okay, this is her lowest level in this Act 1 to 3 arc. And then going to Act 5 was actually really interesting because that was the act I was most afraid of, and the last one, and because going to the end is always harder when you don't know what you're doing. So for me, I kind of just tried to use that as much as possible, the fact that Becky doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know who she is now without drugs, and she doesn't know what kind of performer she is, so I tried to kind of use that anxiety, and I felt like after that, we were good. Going into Act 3, we were good, and we pushed a lot, but it was definitely we kind of knew what we were doing as far as how far we wanted to go, but the thing that was most important, I think, at first was just establishing the lowest place that she could, the most fun she could be, the most friendly, the most kind of fun to be around, and then taking it from there and going down that sort of, spiral that she goes down.
Which, to be clear, the most fun and this, is bad.
Yeah.
It's not
it's terrible.
Yeah, and I remember at some point somebody on the crew or an actor had some comment during Act 1, and you're you asked something and someone's response was something else, and your response to that was oh, I'm still holding a lot back. This is not all there is. Like,
Yeah.
there's still two more.
And I remember actually that's true. We talked about that a lot during Act 1, whether it be things that like you would want to push me on sometimes. And I just remembered this, and I would be like, hold it, like wait, like we have a couple more acts to go.
Yeah, we needed, like, you just needed to pace it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was fun just finding, although weirdly tonight, watching a movie as I did for the first time in over a year, I did wonder if Act 1 could be faster. There was moments in it where I was like, is this faster? Because in editing, not only were the performances extreme, but then in editing, we made it even faster. And it's fun.
I'm sure it could be.
It's fun to think about how that could have been done, although I did notice I was in the very, very rear row, a lot of kind of charming walkouts throughout maybe like the end of 1 and into 2 and then Act 3. And then after Act 4, which is where in my mind is like the intermission. Not that we have one. None.
Yeah.
So.
If you stuck around that long, I feel like.
Not that I would think.
You're in.
Yeah. But it was interesting to watch where those occurred.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun. In a perfect world, you would shoot the whole movie in order, which is what we did for Quinterberg, from page 1 to the end. In the world we lived in, we shot each act in its own order, but not in the order they are, in the order you just listed.
Yeah. And I love that moment, the way that it was written, because it was just that's exactly what it was. This moment of where you're seeing the fact that you're getting older, you're seeing the fact that you're not the thing everyone's listening to now. These people are better. They're going to come after you. Your career is ending. All of that, but also the sense of admiration for them, the sense of they're actually really good, and is respecting that as well. But ultimately wanting to, drown them if possible. Like a bag of kittens. Like they're just you gotta go. So it's like that, all those feelings that we have, and being honest about that, being honest about jealousy, and being honest about envy, and those terrible feelings that we feel sometimes as artists, And yeah, we did that great shot, which was just like coming in really slowly.
Yeah, so off of that, there's I guess 3 things to note about that question and that shot. One is that a big part of that sequence was something that you had come back with from your drug research, which was when in the...
It was online.
Sorry, I should have been more specific. When you came back from the desert, having done your drug research, one of the things that you were like, we need to find the place in the first 3 acts for paranoia.
And just how much the media loves that spectacle of the talented woman and her downfall, and I wonder what you think about that kind of fitting into that world or fitting into that narrative.
I think I thought we would base it on somebody specific early on. Before I read the script, I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be more somebody that it's based on that's actually existing. But then when I read the script, it was so fully complete as its own character, and she was so specifically written. There's no improv in the movie, it's all there, and this crazy arc over 5 acts. So I actually didn't feel the need to refer to anyone in real life as much as I maybe thought I would when you first pitched the concept to me, and I said yeah. Then I got this script with this character in it, and was just like, oh, cool, I'm just gonna play her. I don't need to worry about anyone else. I should just do that. You said that you base it more on Axl Rose. I don't know anything about Axl Rose. So yeah, I did watch the Amy documentary a lot, but I also watched a lot of Marilyn Monroe stuff. I think anytime you get any, person who is prolific and female and has a, abuse problem, your mind immediately goes to the most famous people you can think of that have that. But I really felt like I didn't base it on anyone except for the Becky that he wrote.